All right, this is the surface area review worksheet, and these are the problems that you're looking at right now that you're going to see on your quiz tomorrow. So I thought I'd spend a little extra time just going over how to find the surface area of each one of them. And the most recent shape or solid that we just did the surface area of is the cylinder. So that's the one we can start with here in number 1. So remember, when you're finding the surface area, you're finding the area of all the sides, and we're going to add them together. And so we need to know how many sides there are. And for a cylinder, there's 3. There's 2 circle sides, and then there's a rectangular side. So let's start with the 2 circle sides. Since there's 2 of them, we can start with a 2 and then parentheses. And then the area of a circle is pi r squared. And we know that the radius of this circle is 10. So 2 times pi 10 squared. That'll give us the area of both of the circle parts that I'm highlighting here in red. And then there's the rectangle part. And so remember, we can unroll that curved part. Okay, we can unroll that. And that's going to be a rectangle, and we already know the height of the rectangle. It's given to us as 16. And then the length of the rectangle is going to be the circumference. And so our circumference formula is pi times diameter. And so the diameter of this circle would be 20. So the length of that rectangle is going to be pi times 20, or 20 pi. And so to find the area of that purple rectangle, we would do length times width, or 16 times 20 pi. All right, so now that we've got all 3 of our sides, you can see the 2 here representing that there's 2 circle sides, and then there's only one side that's the rectangle side, the length and then the width. So now we're ready to go ahead and start solving this, but we're not even going to use the pi until the very end. If you remember, we're going to write our answer in terms of pi, and then we're going to solve it at the very end of the problem. So we can start by doing, I guess I've still got purple here, so 16 times 20. And so 16 times 2 is 32, and because it's 20, I just add a 0 to that. So that's going to be 320 pi. And then over here on the left side, 10 squared means 10 times 10, that's 100. And 100 times 2 is 200. So that'll be 200 times pi. And so we're just going to add these together, and 200 pi plus 320 pi is going to make 520 pi. Now we're ready to go ahead and multiply by pi, and I'm going to use 3.14. You're welcome to use the pi button if you want to. And then when you multiply that out, you'll get 1,632.8. And because we're doing area, that's going to be centimeters squared. And so that's how you find the surface area of a cylinder. And so we got one more cylinder on this worksheet that we'll do that for as well. All right, the next shape we have here is a triangular prism. And so I need to know how many faces are on a triangular prism. What makes this worksheet, I guess, maybe a little bit more difficult than the problems we were doing on our homework is the fact that you can't see through these shapes. So you kind of have to know what's on the other side. So I know that there's a triangle side in front, and there's also a congruent triangle on the other side, which means it's the same size. So we can start by finding the area of those 2 triangles. And remember, the triangle formula is 1/2 base times height, so 12 times 9. My right angle always tells me what my base and my height are, so 9 and 12. And so I'm going to multiply those out. I know that the 2 and the 1/2 will cancel out because half of 2 is 1. And then 12 times 9 is 108. So the combined area of those 2 triangles is 108. Now the next thing I want to look for is my lateral rectangles. And for my lateral rectangles, if you look at your triangle, my triangle is a scalene triangle. You can see the 3 sides are 9, 12, and 15. And so none of the triangles, or none of the sides on the triangle have the same length. So none of my rectangles will be the same either. So I'm going to have to do each rectangle individually. I'll start with the bottom rectangle. The bottom rectangle is going to be 6 by 12, and there's only one of those, and 6 times 12 is 72. The left side rectangle, which is the one you really can't see the most, is 9 by 6, which is 54. And then the slanted rectangle on the top is the one you really can see, is 15 by 6, which is 90. And so I'm going to add these areas together. The 108, the 72, the 54, and the 90 are all going to combine to give me my 5 sides. So we have 2, and then 3, 4, and 5 to get my 5 sides. And when you add those together, your combined surface area is going to be 324, and we're measuring in meters, so meters squared. And that's how you find the surface area of a triangular prism. You just have to add up the areas of all the sides. We had 2 triangle sides and we had 3 rectangle sides that were all different in this triangle. Our next shape is this rectangular prism, and this is kind of our bread and butter shape. This is the one we've been working with the most. And so we have a front and a back, we have a top and a bottom, we have a left and a right that are all the same. So we have 6 total sides or faces on this prism. Let's start with the front side. So I'm going to do the front and the back. The front and the back are both going to be 15 by 11. So there's 2 of them. There's a back side. So I'm going to do 2 times 15 times 11. And that'll give me my total area for the front and back. And so that's going to give us, let's see, 2 times 15 is 30. And 30 times 11 will be 330. And that's the front and the back. So front and back. And then, so now we can do the, I guess we'll do the left and the right. And so I can see the right side right here. And I know the dimensions of the left and the right are going to be 11, and then this has to be 5 up here. So 11 by 5, and again, there's 2 of them. So 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 times 11 is 110. And then there's the top and bottom side. So top and bottom. And there's 2 of those. And that's going to be 5 by 15. Again, 2 times 5 is 10. And 10 times 15 is going to be 150. So I'm just going to add the 330 with the 110 with the 150. And that looks like it's going to give us 590. So I'll write that over here, 590 millimeters squared. And so again, I just need to make sure that I've got all of my sides or faces accounted for. I've got 6 of them, and so I've got 2 up here, and 2 right there, and 2 right there, and that's a total of 6. All right, number 4 has another cylinder here that we can practice on, and so again, a cylinder only has 3 faces, 2 circle sides, so we can start there. Our 2 circle sides, 1 there, and 1 there, and the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared, but they didn't give us the radius here. This 18 is the diameter because that dotted line goes all the way through the circle. So the radius would be half of that, which is 9. So we're going to do 2 times pi times 9 squared, and that'll give us both of our circles. And then for our lateral rectangle, you can see I can kind of like start to unroll this. For our lateral rectangle, we know it's going to be 11 centimeters wide. And then the length of it is going to be, again, the circumference of the circle. And the circumference formula is diameter, which we know, times pi. So 18 pi. So I'll write that over here. So plus 11 times 18 pi. All right, so let's do the 11 times the 18 first, and we're going to leave our answer in terms of pi. And so 11 times 18 is 198, and then I can drop down that pi that we're multiplying by, plus, and then the 9 squared is 81, and 81 times 2, or 9 times 9 is 81, remember that. And then 81 times 2 is 162, and we can drop down that pi. And so if I add 162 pi and 198 pi together, I can do that because they're both like terms. That gives me 360 pi. And that's writing my answer in terms of pi. And if I multiply that by 3.14 to round my answer, that's going to be, or to approximate my answer to the nearest tenth or hundredth, that would be 1,130 0.4. And that's just 0.4. There's no other decimal places. And that's going to be centimeters squared. So that's how you find, again, the surface area of a cylinder. We have to do our 2 circle sides. And then after our 2 circle sides, we have that lateral rectangle side, which uses the circumference formula. And then we're going to multiply it by whatever the height of the cylinder is. Number 5, we've got another triangular prism here. And again, we can start with our triangle sides. That's what I usually start with if I have a triangular prism, is my 2 bases. And so because there's 2 of those triangle sides, one on the front and then one on the back there, right? We can't see it, but we know it's there because we know prisms always have 2 equal-sized bases. So I can go ahead and find the area of one of those triangles and then double it. And so that's going to be 1/2, again, because it's a triangle, times the base, which is 14. And then the height here is going to be 12. So again, we have to focus on where's that right angle, and that means the base is 14, and then that means the height is going to be 12. We're not actually going to use the 13 or the 15 as far as the area of the triangle is concerned. So the 1/2 and the 2 will cancel out just like they did last time, and that leaves us with 14 times 12. Which is 168, so that's the area of our 2 triangle sides combined. Now for our rectangles. Just like last time, if I look at my 3 sides of my triangle, 14, 13, and 15, none of them are the same, so none of my 3 rectangles are going to be the same either. So let's start with maybe the one that's on bottom. And the rectangle that's on bottom here is a 14 by 10 rectangle. And there's only one of those, so I'm not going to double that. 14 times 10 is 140. Then there's the one on the left side. The one on the left side I know is 13 for the width. It's also 10, right? That 10 is the same as this 10 here. So it's also 10 for the length. So 13 times 10 is 130. And then there's the one that's slanting on the side here. And that rectangle is probably the easiest one to see, and it's 15 by 10. So they all have a length of 10. That's because that's the height of the prism. And that's 150. And so then we just multiply, or we add these areas together. There's 5 areas there. We've got 1, 2. Don't remember there was a 2, or remember there was a 2 there, and then 3, 4, and 5. And so 5 areas to combine is what our surface area will be. And so that gives us a combined surface area of 588, and we're measuring in inches, so inches squared. So again, a triangular prism, do your 2 triangle sides first, and then you can do your rectangle sides. There will be a total of 5 sides. Sometimes, if you have an isosceles triangle, some of the rectangles will be the same. We haven't seen that yet on this worksheet. All right, and then number 6 is a rectangular prism, and so we know we have 6 sides. Let's start with our front and back side. Our front and back side is a square. It's a 7 by 7 square, and there are 2 of those. So 2 times 7 times 7, and we know 7 squared is 49. And so if you double 49, you'll get 98. So 7 times 7 times 2 is 98. Now for the left and right side triangle, or rectangle. For the rectangle on the left and right side, that is going to be a 7 by 14. But, however, because my base was a square, if I go ahead and peek at the top and bottom rectangles, they're also going to be 7 by 14. So I actually have, if I want to count the top and bottom as well, I actually have 4 rectangles that are 7 by 14. I have 4 of them. The left and the right and the top and bottom rectangles are all the same. So 7 times 14 times 4 is going to give us an area of 392. And that's, again, if I'm checking here, I've got 2 sides accounted for there and 4 sides accounted for here, and that's 6 total sides. So I'm going to add those sides together, or those areas together. Okay, so 392 plus 98 is going to give us 490 feet squared. And again, we had our our two sides on the front and back, which were squares, and then we had 4 equal-sized rectangles wrapping around. Remember, we call those lateral rectangles that wrap around your base. All right, so on the back side of the worksheet, we have 4 shapes that are a little bit different from the ones we've been working with in class. Number 7 is a trapezoidal prism. It has a trapezoid base on front, and you know all prisms have 2 bases, so there's a trapezoid side on the back. And because it's a prism, all the sides wrapping around it, all the lateral sides are rectangles. So we still have 6 sides. We have 2 trapezoid sides. And then we have 4 rectangle sides, 4 lateral rectangles that wrap around it. For number 8, we have, this is a parallelogramal prism, where our base is a parallelogram, which remember, you already know the formula for a trapezoid and for a parallelogram. So it's also got 6 sides. It's got 2 parallelograms, front and back. And then it's got 4 lateral rectangles that wrap around for the lateral sides. And then down here in number 9 and number 10 is just got a variety of shapes. Number 9 has, looks like it's a rectangular prism with a triangular prism sitting on top. And number 10 is a rectangular prism with a smaller square prism sitting on top. And so there's a lot of different faces on these 2 shapes. So here's the deal with the backside. I'm going to offer extra credit for anyone that is able to give me the correct answer for the surface area of these 4 shapes. Number 7 is going to be worth 1 point of extra credit. Number 8 is going to be worth 1 point of extra credit. Number 9 is going to be worth 2 points of extra credit. And number 10 is also going to be worth 2 points of extra credit. So a potential of 6 extra credit points just from the back side of this worksheet. So it's completely optional. These are the kind of shapes that you might see as a bonus problem on your quiz tomorrow. They're not the shapes that we've been working on in class. So that's why I'm offering them as extra credit. Now, in order to get the extra credit points for this, you have until this worksheet is due, which is technically Monday, and you will need to post this worksheet or a screenshot of this back page to Google Classroom so that I can give you the extra credit points. Okay, I'm not going to be much help, so you can ask me if you have a question in class before it's due, but I'm not going to be super helpful because they're extra credit. So do what you can and make sure you get the front side copied down, and I'll see you guys later.